The vote had been efficient. No raised voices, no visible conflict, no fractured alliances. From the outside, it looked disciplined, but discipline without documentation is only confidence pretending to be structure. Elena woke early the next morning, not because she couldn't sleep, because she wanted clarity before the market opened. The sun hadn't fully risen when she opened her laptop again. The apartment was silent, no television, no music, no distraction, just the sound of keys and the faint hum of a city beginning its day. She didn't replay the vote emotionally. She replayed it procedurally. Every phrase Daniel used, every word Margaret avoided, every moment the board chose comfort over confrontation. She didn't search for betrayal. She searched for exposure, because exposure is what destabilizes systems. And systems, when destabilized, reveal their design. She navigated back to the institutional investor agreement. The document was long, dense, signed years ago. Most executives read it once, so then rely on summaries forever. She did not rely on summaries. She searched governance, then continuity, then executive integrity. Clause 14.2, continuity of executive integrity. She read it slowly, then again, then once more. Major executive removals affecting board-level oversight must be supported by documented performance-based justification aligned with investor governance stability requirements. Not interpretation, not perception, documented performance. She leaned back slightly. The board had cited cultural misalignment. They had framed her as technically brilliant but socially disruptive. They had used language designed to feel responsible, but language that feels responsible is not always compliant. The vote had been clean internally, but externally it had left a gap, and gaps attract review. She did not rush. She drafted the email carefully. Subject, clarification request, governance, continuity clause. She addressed it to internal legal counsel. She copied Margaret Hall. She did not copy Daniel. She chose every word deliberately. I would appreciate confirmation that the recent governance adjustment aligns with Clause 14.2 requirements under investor continuity provisions. No accusation, no commentary, just structure. She read it twice, removed one sentence that sounded interpretive, pressed just send. The email left at 9:14 a.m. She closed the laptop and waited. Waiting is uncomfortable for people who rely on influence, but calm for people who rely on process. At 10:02 a.m., legal responded. We are reviewing the implications and will revert shortly. Short, neutral, unsettling. At 10:37 a.m., Daniel received internal notification of the inquiry. He read the subject line once, then again. His expression did not shift immediately, but his breathing slowed. He understood the clause. He remembered signing it. He just hadn't imagined it would matter in this context. He had believed the vote was a governance adjustment, not a structural event. He closed his office door, pulled the agreement from archived files, scrolled to 14.2, read it in full. This wasn't retaliation, it was architecture. And architecture is harder to silence than dissent. He picked up the phone. Schedule Elena today. His voice was calm, not urgent, but firmer than usual. When Elena entered his office that afternoon, the temperature felt different. Not hostile, concentrated. Daniel gestured to the chair opposite him. Thank you for coming. His tone was even. She sat. He folded his hands on the desk. I saw your email. Yes. Was that necessary? The question was soft, but layered. She held his gaze. It's procedural. He leaned back. You're creating movement around something that was settled. It may not be settled. A brief pause. His smile appeared, thin, controlled. Elena, governance adjustments happen all the time, you know that. They do, and they don't usually require investor-level clarification. They do when documentation is absent. That landed, not loud, but exact. He stood slowly and walked toward the window. The skyline behind him framed authority. You copied Margaret. She chairs governance. You didn't copy me. I'm here. Silence. He turned slightly, eyes sharper now. Are you attempting to challenge the board's decision? No. Then what are you attempting? To ensure compliance. The word compliance removed emotion from the conversation. It reduced it to structure. And structure leaves little room for charisma. He exhaled slowly. You understand what this triggers. Yes. External review, market sensitivity, questions. If the documentation is sufficient, there's nothing to question. He studied her carefully, looking for any anger, for ego, for a desire to return to power. He found none. That unsettled him. Because if she were angry, he could dismiss her. If she were emotional, he could frame her. But she was clinical. He walked back to his desk, sat, lowered his voice. Elena, sometimes intelligence requires timing. And sometimes timing requires documentation. There it was again. Precision, no aggression, no raised tone, just structure. He leaned forward slightly. If this escalates unnecessarily, it affects everyone. Then let's ensure it doesn't escalate unnecessarily. Another clean answer. He recognized something then. She wasn't escalating. She was exposing the absence of structure he assumed didn't matter. That realization pressed against him in a way confrontation never had. He shifted tactics. Legal will review. Let's keep this contained. She stood. I have no intention of expanding it. And if legal finds a gap, then the gap exists. She left without tension, without triumph, without threat. Just certainty. By evening, 2 board members had quietly requested copies of Clause 14.2. Not publicly, not dramatically, quietly. Margaret forwarded the clause to outside counsel. Daniel saw the forward, said nothing, but felt something shift. The following morning, legal requested formal documentation of measurable performance deficiencies justifying Elena's removal. The request was neutral, but devastating, because there were none. There were meeting notes about tone, about cohesion, about strategic alignment, but no documented performance failure. He reread the meeting minutes. He reread her reports. Her numbers had been accurate, her forecasts conservative, her restructuring efficient. He had not removed her for incompetence. He had removed her for discomfort. And discomfort is difficult to quantify. For the first time, doubt entered his thinking. Had he mistaken stability for control? He dismissed the thought. Then it returned. He called a long-standing board member. It's procedural, he said. Just clarification. He repeated that phrase twice. People repeat what they don't fully believe. During the next informal board check-in, one member asked casually, Do we have performance documentation prepared? Casually, as if it were minor. Daniel answered smoothly. Legal is assembling a summary. Margaret watched, said little, but her silence felt analytical. Micro shifts began to appear. One member took notes more carefully. Another asked follow-up questions that previously would have been unnecessary. No one accused him, but no one blindly reinforced him either. That was new. Elena did not contact anyone. She did not campaign. She did not defend herself publicly. She worked quietly and waited. Waiting, when backed by structure, becomes leverage. 3 days later, external counsel responded. Preliminary assessment. While the removal complied with internal voting procedure, absence of documented performance-based justification may expose governance continuity risk under investor provisions. Recommendation, formal review, and supplemental documentation before confirming executive oversight change. Daniel closed the message slowly. This was no longer theoretical. It was structural pressure. He sat alone in the boardroom that evening, empty chairs around him, city lights reflecting off glass. He replayed the meeting again. He replayed her word. Optimistic. She had not attacked him. She had warned him. He had interpreted warning as threat. Because warning challenges authority, threat can be crushed. Warning must be considered. He leaned back, hands resting on the table. He understood something uncomfortable. Influence had built his authority, but influence does not override clauses. He had assumed cohesion was protection. It was not. Documentation was. He was not defeated, but he was recalculating. The system had not turned against him. It had begun asking questions. And questions change rooms. They thought the vote had ended the matter. It had triggered a review, and reviews rarely disappear quietly.